transitional links and intermediate forms in either the fossil record or the modern world. Therefore, there is no actual evidence that evolution has occurred either in the past or the present. Absolutely no transitional forms either in the fossil record or in modern animal and plant life have been found. All appear fully formed and complete. The fossil record amply supplies us with representation of almost all species of animals and plants, but none of the supposed links of plant to animal, fish to amphibian, amphibian to reptile, or reptile to birds, nor any transitional forms at all, period. There are essentially the same gaps between all the basic kinds in the fossil record as exist in plant and animal life today. There are literally a host of missing links in the fossil record and the modern world. Number 1. There is no evidence, none, in the fossil record of one kind of creature becoming another kind. No transitional links or intermediate forms between the various kinds of creatures have ever been found. For example, the evolutionist claims that it took perhaps 50 million years for a fish to evolve into an amphibian. But again, there are no transitional forms. For example, not a single fossil with part fins, part feet has been found, and this is true between every major plant and animal kind. Number 2, nowhere do we see animals with partially evolved legs, eyes, brains, or various other tissue, organs, or biological structures. Number 3, if continuous evolution is a universal law of nature, as the evolutionist claims, then there should be an abundance of evidence of continuity and transition between all the kinds of organisms involved in the process, both in the present world and in the fossil record. Instead, we find great gaps between all the basic kinds, and essentially the same gaps in the fossil record that exist in the modern world. Number 4, there are no links, none, of plant to animal, fish to amphibian, amphibian to reptile, reptile to birds and mammals. There are no links whatsoever. Number 5. All of the present orders, classes and phyla appear quite suddenly in the fossil record without indications of the evolving lines from which they developed. The same is largely true even most familiars and genre. There are literally an innumerable host of missing links in the record, innumerable. Number 6. There is simply no evidence of partial evolved animals or plants in the fossil record to indicate that evolution has occurred in the past, and certainly no evidence of partial evolved animals and plants existing today, which obviously indicates that evolution was not occurring in the past and it's not occurring now. Number 7. The outstanding characteristics of the fossil record is the absence of evidence for evolution. I'll repeat that. The outstanding characteristics of the fossil record is the absence of evidence for evolution. Number 8. If there were links, then they would have been found, since the fossil record is quite ample to represent the true state of the ancient world. Most individual species of fossil plants and animals have been collected in considerable numbers, but the hypothetical intermediate species have never been represented at all. Number 9. Darwin stated, why, if species have descended from other species by insensibly fine gradations, do we not see innumerable transitional forms? Why is not all nature in confusion instead of the species being as we see them well defined? Number 10. Darwin admitted that the number of transitional links must have been conceivably great. The fact that there are none prompted him to conclude that this fact is the most obvious and gravest objection which can be urged against my theory. Number 11. The occasional suggested examples of missing links, such as the famous Archaeopteryx, supposedly linking birds and reptiles, can usually be recognised on closer study to represent merely another type of one of the basic kinds it supposedly links. The Archaeopteryx was a true bird by a reasonable definition with feathers and warm blood. Number 12. even if a creature shared characteristics belonging to two separate groups. However, this would not necessarily make it a transitional link, as long as each one of the characteristics themselves is complete and not in process of transition from one type of structure or function into another type of structure or function. Number 13. Because of the lack of evidence for gradual evolution in the fossil record, more and more evolutionists are adopting a new theory of evolution known as macroevolution. The theory of macroevolution teaches that animals and plants changed suddenly from one kind to another without going through any gradual or transitional process. Number 14. Other evolutionists claim that the links are missing only because the changes are so small that they are not noticed. The problem here is that they are assuming that at every point in the evolution process the being would appear as complete or whole. Actually, they would appear in transition, as when a house is being built. Number 15. The point to remember is that the fossil problem for Darwinism is getting worse all the time. No fossils can be found. You go find me some missing links that connect this animal to the other and I will believe you. But no evolutionist will be able to provide it, which suggests to me and any other logical thinking person, just with reason, that suggests to me that one type of animal cannot evolve into another kind of animal. Obviously there's variation within the kind which God set in place, but there's a barrier and there's limits to that variation. One species will not cross into another species. Hippos will not give birth to giraffes. Dogs will not give birth to cats. But there will be variation within the species, which is exactly what we see today. We have long-haired offspring, short-haired offspring, long-legged offspring, short-legged offspring, big-eyed offspring, small-eyed offspring, and so on, and the variation can be tweaked in so many ways. But for you to try and tell me that a dinosaur evolved into a bird, that is just a fairy tale. It happens in the mind. You have to have faith to believe that. So don't call it science and sit there all high and mighty in your ignorance, like neck high in your ignorance, trying to say that I'm just been brainwashed and I'm not looking at the facts and the evidence, when it is you that is putting your hands over your ears, when it is you putting your hands over your eyes, denying the evidence put before you. You're the one trying to brainwash me with assumptions, not scientific fact, assumptions. You know, you try and say that we evolved from a monkey into a human. So provide me the bones and the skeletons that link a monkey to a human, and you'll find that none have ever been found. It's always picture, it's always animation, but none of them have been found. Most of them have been proven to be fraud, most of them might have been proven to be a monkey and not human. So where are your missing links? That's just the humans. What about all the other thousands of species? You know, where are the transitional forms? You cannot find them. So don't try and preach to me that evolution is true. Even Darwin said himself that if we weren't able to find the transitional forms, then his theory would collapse on itself instantly. And he even said the point to remember is that the fossil problem is getting worse, because the longer the time goes on we can't find any fossils. But evolution is not scientific fact, it's just assumptions. It is a religion, it is not fact. It requires faith. And if you believe in evolution, you know, you have to forgive me, but my faith isn't as strong as yours. You know, for you have to have faith. You step outside of science, and it happens in your mind and your conscience, and you have to believe that this happened. You have to believe that it happened with no solid evidence. So, you know, whatever. Investigate the Bible. Creation testifies to the existence of a creator. If you want to ignore that in your ignorance, you go ahead. brainwashed into believing that we evolved from a monkey when there's no scientific evidence in front of them.